Hello and welcome to another edition of Bree Online Live. I'm your host, Chad Hembree, and joining me we have two very, very special guests from the Madison County Sheriff's Department. We're honored to have our sheriff with us, Nelson O'Donnell. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Chad.
And Canine Officer, also, Mr.
Yes.
Bruce King. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
Deputy
us.
Bruce King, sorry. And we just spent some fantastic time outside with the new vehicle.
Yes.
It is awesome. I don't know what else to say. It's just awesome. And of course, we'll be showing that throughout the interview of what's going on and what we're using the vehicle for. But first of all, let's just talk in general. How much news have we had about drug busts around here lately? You're really working hard on this.
Yeah, Chad, we've had a lot. When I ran for sheriff, I ran on a platform of trying to do something with the escalating drug situation within Madison County. And in doing so, I developed what is referred to as the Central Kentucky Area Drug Task Force. Now, that task force consists of three different agencies right now, which is the Madison County Sheriff's Office, the Berea City Police Department, and the the Irvin Police Department. Since it's gone into effect, as of date, we have opened around 900 criminal cases, drug trafficking cases. We've got about 850 drug trafficking arrests. We've seized right at nearly $1 million in U.S. currency. The meth problem, when I took over, was our biggest problem. Okay. We worked continuously on the meth problem the first year or two that I came into office, taking down as many as 3 and 4 meth labs a week. Now, we may get one meth lab every 3 months.
Words out.
Not to say that it's not here, but it's not as prevalent as it was, and that's what we want.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Absolutely. And just some of this money that we've seized has given us the opportunity to help the taxpayers even more by putting that seized drug money to the best use. And one of the best uses I could find for it was this new Tahoe that you've seen out here that Deputy Bruce King's going to be telling you all about. But the guys that worked on this, that actually equipped and put the stuff together, asked my permission to put it on YouTube, and I agreed to do that. They said it was probably, without a doubt, they said it was the sharpest vehicle they have ever worked on. I believe it's the sharpest vehicle in the state. Of course, I don't think anybody's vehicles come up to the Madison County Sheriff's Office as far as looks and class.
It's very sharp. It's a class act.
It's a class
sure
act. Yes, thank you.
All right, well, let's get straight into it. Obviously, you're the one that gets to drive this wonderful vehicle around every day and work with Pleasar. Tell us, first of all, about the K-9 unit in general, just for people that don't understand.
The K-9 unit in general, what we do is we provide support for the Madison County Sheriff's Department. I support other officers, whether they need the dog to search for narcotics or to search for someone who has gotten away as far as in a foot pursuit. Also, we use him for apprehension control, which is if somebody's fighting an officer or they're fighting me, he'll come and protect me, and I can send him after somebody, and the apprehension control part is he stops them, then I go up and I remove him from the perpetrator. So
his favorite part of the job, probably not your favorite part of the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure Pleasar loves to get some action. But
yes.
That's what they're trained for. Fantastic dog, though, by the way.
Thank you.
And we got some footage that they'll be seeing of you working with him.
Okay.
And it's just amazing to think that the dog can be so gentle with like you were talking about your granddaughter playing with him, and then immediately on command know what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
And effectively execute.
Yes.
And let me interject there, talking about the dog and how good he is. We got some guys when I first came into office. I think in that particular arrest, we got like 12,000 Lortab tablets. And what they did is they took the Lortabs in 1,000-pill bundles, shrink wrapped it with shrink wrap, applied axle grease over that, shrink wrapped it again, applied axle grease over that, and then shrink wrapped it again. And I just wanted to see if the dog could find it, so I didn't let him know where it was, but I took it in the bathroom and put it in one of the deputy's locker. and we brought the dog in, and he immediately hit on it. So hiding doesn't do any good. You can't fool him.
That's amazing.
It is.
That is amazing. I mean,
It is. Their
geez.
sense of smell is just
Well,
tremendous.
give us a little history on the dog, if you don't mind.
The dog he's right around 8 years old now. He's originally from Czechoslovakia. I'm not exactly sure what province he came out of. Berea purchased the dog from Mid-Michigan Kennels. That's the kennel that went overseas, purchased him, brought him back to the States to put him in service in the U.S. as a police service dog. He went through an academy up there with the original handler for 5 weeks, and then he came down. He was put into service for Berea. Berea had him. That handler left. They acquired a new handler, which again left, which when Sheriff O'Donnell came into office, he had the original handler that came and worked for him. He left to get out of law enforcement and go work at Toyota. And once he left, Sheriff O'Donnell came to me. I worked for the state at the time. He knew what I was about as far as drug work and asked me to come work for him. So we talked it over. Here I am. I'm working for him. And we've had a good time with him the past 2.5, 3 years.
That's great.
So,
And so that's the history of the dog. And now, what's your history with K9 Union? Is that where it started? Or
But my K9 history actually started here at the Sheriff's Department as far as being a handler. Prior to coming here, I worked for Kentucky Vehicle Enforcement, which is now CVE, Commercial Vehicle Enforcement. And I was on their Special Operations Unit. And basically all we did was work the major interstates in Kentucky and look for drug smugglers. During that time, I acquired a couple of rolling meth labs and numerous felony arrests, being cocaine, pills, you name it. I've made the arrest on it in drugs for that.
Wow. Keeping us safe. Thanks.
Did I send you to Desert Snow?
I went through Desert Snow when I was with Kentucky
with
Vehicle Enforcement.
KEVE.
Yep.
And what is Desert Snow?
Desert Snow is a gentleman that is from California. He puts on a 40-hour class that basically all it is criminal interdiction. It's not called drug interdiction because the people that have gone through his class have been involved in multiple arrests around the U.S., including terrorism arrests as well as drug smuggling arrests. And during that class, he just teaches you different methods of how to do field side interviews with people and to recognize people's body language and behavior so that you know that you're being lied to or the person is being deceptive. And you can pick up on those cues pretty easily.
It's probably one of the most elite trainings within the country.
That's
I've
great.
sent,
Yes.
I think, two other officers.
Two other officers have been through that work for the agency. Another thing that the class brings on, it's hands-on. He brings in different vehicles from tractor trailers down to cars, and it depends on what phase of the class you go through. He's got 2 different classes. One's phase 1, 2, and 3, and it's based on passenger vehicles and drug smuggling. And then phase 4, which is just an advanced version, that's when you get into the tractor trailers and more of the terrorism, the things to look for as far as things that are out of place that will make your mind, it'll jog your mind a little bit and make you think, something's going on here.
And Bruce is modest. He's also our taser instructor, and he's not going to say anything about it, but go ahead and tell him about your self-defense abilities.
I also teach PPCT, defensive tactics, which is what is taught at the academy currently, and also PPCT gauge, which is ground avoidance, ground escape. And that's for officers how to get back up off the ground once they get on the ground with the suspect. And I've also been trained with Krav Maga, which is Israeli hand-to-hand combat.
Yes, I'm familiar. That's
Yes.
great.
Pretty impressive.
It is very impressive.
And as he said, I'm also taser instructor for the department. To date, I've tased probably over 125 people with no injuries, and they've all been voluntary.
That's impressive.
And I'm also a firearms instructor.
That's quite a resume.
That's quite a resume.
Yes, it is.
I have, and fortunately, he's one of many that I have working for me that have a resume like that.
Well, I'm glad to know that. I'm sure everyone
Thank you,
else is too.
I guess since he's brought my modesty out, I'll talk about the course that he sent me through last year.
Okay.
And that is through the academy. And it basically started in California back in the 70s. It's called Drug Recognition Expert. And what I did was I went to school for almost an entire month. He was gracious enough to let me off the street long enough to go to class, but during the second week of the class, I was wishing I was back at work just because of what it entailed. And when you go through this class, it teaches you the clinological effects of being under the influence of drugs, not just alcohol, but all drugs. And so now usually I read people's eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul. And you look at their pupils to, figure out which drug category they're on. There's 7 different drug categories you learn during that course of instruction. And it's come in real handy to talk to people on the side of the road and end up with a driving under the influence of drug conviction just based off of what I was able to tell through the
Just
signs and
visually.
symptoms.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Didn't realize you had such well-trained deputies.
No, I did not. I'm glad I'm on the right side. Oh, that's great. We're going to talk about numbers for just a minute, and then we're going to get into some specifics on this vehicle that was purchased with these numbers.
Yes.
900 cases, right?
Yes.
850 arrests? Yeah.
Yes. That's approximate.
Approximate, yeah.
And I failed to mention, we started an investigation. When I say we, the task force combined with the sheriff's office and the other agencies back in March of this year. We did one roundup, and we rounded up 52 on that
52.
one. And then we just did one last week. We got 30 in it. The investigation is still continuing. And when it's finished, we'll have over 100 individuals since March. Trafficking in narcotics, all felony cases, all good video cases. That shows you what the problem is and how we're combating the problem. But when it's finished, this is going to be the largest case in the history of Madison County per persons arrested during one single investigation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And this is pending right now.
This is still pending. Case is still ongoing. The reason I couldn't do all of them at once, well, we jammed district court, found out that wasn't going to work when I took 52 in. I think the judges were in the late hours in the evening getting through that docket. So what we did was indict these other individuals. Once we got 30 indictments, we went ahead and took them off. We're in the process of getting more indictments.
Yeah, it's a shame that you can't be over aggressive just because the system just can't even handle it all at once.
And that's part of it. And it puts you in a moral dilemma.
Yeah.
It puts me in a moral dilemma because I know these people are still every day trafficking in narcotics. However, at the same time, I know we can't jam and overflow the court system.
Oh, absolutely. It's not putting the finger pointing at anyone.
No,
it's just an
it's
unfortunate
just-
circumstance.
It's just the way our country is, unfortunately. This is a country prescription oriented. That's about the best way I can explain it. I mean, I don't know anybody that's not on Effexor or Zoloft, a pill for something. I had a little heart attack. I take 7 medications a day. And that's the way our country is.
I belong to that market now. Lipitor was my first one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's just,
It's a pill society.
Uh-huh.
It's a pill society.
Wow. Okay, and then in the end, the last number, money brought in, which is what we purchased this vehicle with. And I say we because I feel proud of being part of this county. What kind of number are we looking at?
Well, we seized, which don't mean we actually were granted, around $1 million. With that, one thing, we were able to purchase this fabulous vehicle you see outside and equip it. Not only that, a lot of our tasers were paid for with seized drug money. Our weapons were paid for with seized drug money. Some of our rifles were paid for with seized drug money. And it really helps the sheriff's budget. I mean, the budget I'm allowed, I could not accomplish what we have been able to accomplish just on the budget approved by Madison Fiscal Court for me. It is a good budget. However, we could use twice that amount. But what we've done and what we've accomplished, I've been able, since I took over the office, we went from 18 employees to 40 employees within 2 years without costing the taxpayers an additional penny.
Because of all the work.
Because of hard work,
Yeah.
because of drug seizures, because of grant funding, and just because of good organization and good policy within the office.
I didn't realize you were up to 40. That is fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That went from what I consider a small department to a pretty significant size.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 120 counties, there probably aren't very many with 40 or more.
No, and
Yep.
40 sounds like a big number, but we've got about 9 courts to wait on in Madison County. A large portion of my deputies or court security officers that are now called, they're tied up with the courts.
Okay.
And the courts just wear us out because we don't have a juvenile holding facility in Madison County, so daily we're going to Lexington and back transporting juveniles.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Then,
Well, I don't want to get off subject, but I did go to an event in Lancaster just the other day, and they don't have a jail at all, of course.
Right.
And
Never reached one.
they're tied up all the time with this, and that was a
Transport.
major issue. So,
Transport.
and we only have one issue, and that's the juveniles, and it's still a problem.
we're still able to provide
Yeah.
an adequate service as far as protecting the citizens of Madison County with the courts, plus transporting people to the penitentiary, to LaGrange, plus taking them to KCPC to be mentally evaluated, plus prisoners that are in other counties we have to go pick up, plus prisoners that are out of state that we have to go pick up. So it's just a busy office.
But maybe 40 does sound like a lot to some people, but to me, I think about how many people we have in this county, especially when Eastern's in session.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole lot of people.
And we overlap our shifts so that we can provide the maximum coverage during peak activity hours. In other words, you may have 5 deputies out at one time during peak hours. Those hours being from like 8 in the evening until 1 or 2 in the morning. But we always have somebody out 24 hours a day.
And you serve the majority of the summons too, right?
Oh, we
So,
do.
yeah.
Then all the court directives that we serve, criminal summons, civil summons, eviction notices, and you could go on and on.
All time consuming.
All time consuming.
All right. Now let's talk about the main thing that we got started, got you down here for, and that's that beautiful vehicle out there. So this totally awesome vehicle, what you gave me the great tour of. We're just going to talk about some features. First of
Okay.
all, it's a Tahoe.
Yes, it's
Right.
a 2010 Chevrolet Tahoe.
And it's got the 350
Yes,
engine in it, Vortec, plenty of power.
yes.
We were talking about amazing for the size vehicle it is.
Mhm.
Tell a little bit about just the overall mechanics of it, and then we'll get to specifics.
It's a police fire specialty service vehicle, which means it's not like your average Tahoe. It has a few modifications, rides a little different, handles a little different, just based on what it's used for. It is not a pursuit Tahoe per se, which is a 2-wheel drive Tahoe. We utilize the 4-wheel drive in the county. I have places that we go to that are out of the way that most Crown Vics and Chargers and 2-wheel drive Tahoes probably just wouldn't be able to make it to. So we opted with the 4-wheel drive option. And also for inclement weather, some of the roads, it takes a little longer for them to be cleaned off. So I'll be utilizing that vehicle a lot during the winter, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We changed a little bit from what we had with the Crown Vic. On the Crown Vic, it was basically me and the dog, and that was it. So this time we decided to go with a split transport cage, which means I can haul one prisoner, and also the dog is in the vehicle as well. So that gives a little more capability from what we had prior to. With the Crown Vic, it was the whole back end. All it was a cage for the dog. And now I'm able to, if I apprehend somebody for narcotics, driving under the influence, domestic violence assault, or anything, I don't tie up 2 officers now just with my unit. I can transport my own prisoner, which was that's going to mean a lot because sometimes we're split up in the county when we're working. It may take 20 to 30 minutes to get somebody to me if I've made an arrest on the side of the road, just because of travel time and the roadways, depending on where we're at in the county.
Well, kind of describe the cage area as we're looking at it here.
Okay, when you get into the driver's side, that's going to be the prisoner transport cage area. It's all enclosed in metal. There's plexiglass and metal between the prisoner and the dog. The prisoner can't blow on the dog, aggravate him in any way to get him agitated. There's a seatbelt restraint in there for the prisoner. And behind me, there's a metal cage that runs from the ceiling all the way to the floor. And also a plexiglass there so the prisoner's not, they can't spit on me or anything of that nature. Once you go around to the passenger side, that side is all for the dog. Has a automatic door popper where if I'm in trouble and I need the dog quickly, I can remotely open that door.
And we had some footage of that. Now, is it motorized open or it just clicks the door and
what it
falls
is,
open?
it's a actuated piston, and then it's hardwired into the system. And the system itself is from Ace K9. It's called Hot and Pop Pro. What that does, it has a monitoring system, lets you know what the temperature is within the cage itself for the dog to make sure he stays cool. If that does heat up, it will roll the windows down, sound the alarm, let me know, hey, the vehicle's overheated. There's also a fan that'll immediately start sucking the hot air out of the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool.
Real safe for the dog. That's
Yes.
great. Yeah.
And as far as the actuated piston, I have a remote on my belt. Anytime I need him, all I have to do is hit that button, hold it, and it pops the door open. That also is incorporated. It has a safety feature. It will only pop open in park and neutral. And when it's in any drive gear, the door won't actuate.
So you couldn't accidentally open it going down the road.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. There's also a dome light back there, so if I need to check on him during the late hours, I normally work during the dark. So I can flip it on, check back, make sure he's okay. There's a front slide door in the middle that I can open up. He can come up. I can pet on him in a few minutes and put him back in the kennel. And there's a spill-proof bowl that is mounted into the cage, so he has access to water the entire shift.
I hadn't even thought about water in there.
Yes.
Of course, I'm not running a K-9 unit. Why would I? I need water. I just get a bottle of water.
Yeah. Before I
that.
had a bowl that slid around back there. It's a spill-proof bowl that I had in the Crown Vic. But Cleesar gets a little bored sometimes. He would chew on the side of the bowl, so it wasn't as spill-proof here lately. But, when you're driving fast trying to get to an emergency, that bowl would slide around. This new one, it's mounted in there. I don't hear it at all. I hear the water slosh in the bowl, but that's it. So I don't have to worry about a water mess at the end of the shift.
Well, also, I noticed in this vehicle, in the rear, which we've got some footage of that too, that so much more storage room than you had trying to cram in that trunk of
Yes.
the Crown Vic.
It's
such a multi-purpose vehicle.
It's pretty nice now. I don't have to bend down to get stuff out. It's all right there. I can just pull it out to me. His tracking lines, harness, and all that's right there at the edge of the vehicle. I carry numerous books with me while I'm on shift, just based off of my background, what I do. And there's plenty of space for all of that. It's not just crammed into one little spot. There's also cameras that are provided for us to use on, criminal investigations and crime scenes. So all of that's there, fingerprint, lifting powder, you name it, it's back there.
Now, Sheriff, you brought something up with the bars on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even think about it, but one of the purposes you said was to keep those airbags from blowing if you had to use the vehicle in some kind of maneuver. And I didn't think of it, but if the airbags blow, you're incapacitated.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're stopped.
And a lot of these individuals have learned that if they'll throw it in reverse and back up pretty fast, they'll deploy the airbag and put you out of commission. But with the pit bars, what I call them, out front, or brush bar, or whatever you want to call it, that keeps that from happening. And also, if you need to perform a pit maneuver, which we would only do in extreme circumstances, it allows you to perform a pit maneuver without doing damage to our vehicle. I can replace the brush bar rather than having to replace the whole front end of the vehicle.
Or in most cases, paint it, because I was going to hit the plastic on today's vehicles.
Absolutely.
It's awful. Okay, so more features on this vehicle. you had a really neat spotlight you were showing me, 360 degree that mounts
It's a
up there.
360 degree spotlight that is removable. During the day, I can take that down. If you noticed, all the lights on the Tahoe are contained within. That's to kind of make it a little lower profile. So when we are doing drug investigations, it's a little harder to spot that vehicle. Yes, there's a few more antennas, but those are going to be changing soon, and you will probably not even notice that vehicle being a police vehicle coming up in behind you. That spotlight, you put it up there, it runs off a 12-volt system. I also have a remote control. It'll spin 180 degrees one way. It won't do a full 360. It will, but you have to go around one way and then bring it back the other side. It tilts up and down. I can maneuver the spotlight how I need to. I've used it on a couple of traffic stops already. During those traffic stops, I was able to take the remote and move the light to shine it to my advantage so that people couldn't see me approaching the car.
Put it in their mirrors. Yeah,
Put it in their
gotcha.
mirrors, yes.
Okay, that's great. Well, no, we want you safe. I mean, gee whiz.
That's basically what you do with the spotlight. A lot of people are like, "Can you turn that off?" Well, no. That's so you don't know when I'm coming back up here. So it's definitely a great safety feature. It's a little bit nicer than the older handheld that we utilize, on the side, but that's a telltale sign that it's probably a police vehicle. So now during the daylight hours, you won't know. At night, it's painted black, so you can't really even see it up there until it's turned on.
Fantastic. Now, the lights around the vehicle are pretty phenomenal, but they're multi-use too. You were showing me how you can use them to actually direct people one direction or another if you were trying to have them pass the vehicle. Or
in the rear window of the vehicle, I have a directional light bar. I can put that to direction the traffic to the left if I'm on the interstate and on the right side of the interstate on a traffic stop or any roadway, and do that directional, and it lets them know you're going to have to go around my vehicle, move over. And then I can also, if I'm on the opposite side of the road, I can turn it to the right, direction traffic to the right, or it has a generic warning light that just flashes.
What the most amazing thing, though, was to walk out the front door of the studio, and you had all the lights going, and this thing's lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, it's flashing everywhere you could possibly flash. And then you turn it off, and it's like, where are the lights?
Yes, they're all concealed, and basically that's to make it, lower profile vehicle. You don't realize it's a police car in front of you. I mean, granted, I'm a cop, but when I drive and I see a cop behind me, I drive better. And that's what most people do. And what it does for me, it gives me an advantage. I've had 2 people already run red lights right in front of me and didn't even realize that I was a cop behind them, but they knew immediately when I turned all those lights on what was going on.
It's not just that they're concealed, it's the fact that they're so effective when they're on, even though they're relatively small. I mean,
the LED lights are so much more effective than the older strobes or the rotator lights. They're just so much brighter. It's amazing to see them. You wouldn't think that they're going to be very bright, but it's just something about them. They really stand out.
I noticed that the sheriff's department's been pretty active in traffic control stuff lately too. You've been used to, you never saw the sheriff's department attention speeders, and of course the goal is to get people to slow down and be safe. And somebody was complaining the other day on a national program I was watching about it was one of the holidays and a lot of speed traps were going on, and it said. People slow down when they see that. Well, that's good. That's what we want them to do, is slow down. If seeing this slows them down, then that's what we want
it's
them
all
to do.
about prevention.
Yeah.
And, our role in law enforcement is to protect and serve. And part of our service is to get people to slow down. And by doing these different things that we do as far as roadblocks, that's checking for insurance. Well, we don't want uninsured motorists out here because that just costs your insurance company more. If somebody hits you and doesn't have insurance, then your insurance company is going to have to pay for your vehicle.
Happened to me twice. It's
happened to me.
It's not a good situation to be in, is it?
Right.
It's not good.
Another thing as far as the prevention, we use traffic stops. We go beyond our traffic stops anymore. When you get out on a traffic stop with most of the deputies in Madison County now, it's not as simple as license, insurance, and registration. We're training more of our deputies to go further into this. Have you had anything to drink today? Are you under the influence of any narcotics? where are you coming from, where are you going. We know most of our drug locations, and when people start being real deceptive about what they're doing,
Looking for those markers.
then our
basically.
red lights in our heads are going off,
Uh-huh.
and it goes more into a drug interdiction type scenario. We know something's going on here. I need to investigate this a little more, and usually you can come out with an arrest on it, either being a warrant, as simple as a warrant, suspended license, or some type of drug or alcohol activity going on.
What about cooperation of different forces, law enforcement agencies? Have you seen improvements on that? That was a big issue a few years ago. They were talking about where people were getting stopped, and then they were already on their way before anything was ever realized that some other agency needed them for something. I know on the national level it's been an issue too.
One thing we've done to help that since I became sheriff, now every warrant that comes in from Berea, Richmond, or Madison County, every warrant issued within Madison County and out of the county that we receive are immediately entered in LINK and NCIC. LINK is the state, it's the state part of the computer that shows you wanted in the state of Kentucky. NCIC, of course, is National Crime Information Center. That's United States wide. So now every warrant we get, say we enter a warrant from the Madison County Sheriff's Office and Berea PD happens to pull that person over and run their tag, they immediately pop up as being a wanted person.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's
and of course, you have the
good.
broadband in all the cars now, right?
Yes.
Right.
And that's your computer set up there. You actually showed me the GPS and
Right.
some pictures of that.
It showed us where we were at in the parking lot here at the studio.
And it is the enhanced system that actually shows the picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can toggle that around. You can change that feature to where it's just showing you a blank screen. It'll show you the house number. And, you have a green background. And then I can also put it on for a topo map, which, it'll give you
show
the
your hills
elevation.
and mountains, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I thought it was great because you were showing me, you just picked a house. And, if we were going to go into this house in a barricade situation,
Mm-hmm.
we know that we couldn't go this way because they'd see us coming for a mile. But
Right.
this way is pretty safe.
Yeah, what it did was it just gives you a directional and it's an aerial view. And this is all part of, the USG geographical, I forgot
USGA,
Yeah, USGA. They fly across the county every so many years, and they take pictures, and these are updated quite frequently. So we have good aerial footage of most residents here in the county, well, all residents here in the county. And we can zoom in on that, and it just gives us different ways that we can look at this house and figure out a way that if there is a barricaded, incident happening at the time, we can figure out our best routes to get to it without being seen.
Well, it has been a real pleasure having both of you on here. It's been so informative, and I hope our viewers have enjoyed it. If they have questions for the Sheriff's Department, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, they can call us at 623-1511, or they can call the Central Kentucky Area Drug Task Force, whose number is, I never can remember.
Oh, yeah, that's 623.
623-7867. And I'd like to tell the people that call, if you have an anonymous drug tip, all these calls, it's anonymous information, it's strictly confidential, your name is never released, we won't even ask you your name. But if you have a drug tip and you know someone is trafficking in narcotics or meth or whatever, then call 623-7867, which is the Central Kentucky Area Drug Task Force office.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us. We appreciate it.
Deputy Bruce King, Sheriff Nelson O'Donnell, thanks so much. Appreciate you bringing the vehicle out. I
Yes, sir.
really enjoyed it.
The pleasure's ours.
I'm Chad Hembree. This has been Berea Online Live. Join us next week for another program.